about 3 minutes left on practice. So welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the final World Tour event for 2013, the iRacing.com Grand Prix of Brazil, here live on GlacierTV. Will Vincent along with Randy Shenworth. Track, as I say, 2.68 miles in length. It has 15 corners. And Randy, importantly, you've got yourself two very long straightaways that run from Yonkau all the way down to the center S, and also coming out of the curve of the Soul down into turn number 4 as well.
Yeah, those are the two main passing zones people are going to be looking to use. Turn 4 probably a little bit better, probably because the issue with turn 1 and 2 is if you get the inside and can't get the job done in 1, turn 2, the car you're trying to pass now has the inside preferred line.
About 3 minutes.
Yeah, with the two good passing opportunities, it should be
so welcome
there should be a lot of good hard racing. And then with the good complicated middle sector, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch everyone make their way through that section of the track.
Going to be a very long, interesting race here today. Of course, some drivers have run already today in the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. We are going to very quickly have a run through your starting grid. Total of 22 cars in this race. Max Delorco qualifying on pole position in a time of 1 minute 11.541. Mogar Philo will starting alongside him on the front row. Of course, Mogar, the hometown hero for this race. Simon Cattell in third, Ariel Eduardo Bernardi in the fourth position, Richie Stanaway in fifth, Patrick Holzman in sixth, Benjamin Lindsay seventh, Boris Spolstra in eighth, Mohamed Patel in ninth, and then Marcus Hamilton rounds out your top 10. And importantly, unlike in the WCS, unlike in the Pro Series, Randy, anyone can qualify. We've got a couple of the WCS drivers here today, but we've also got some guys who run in the standard Grand Prix Series, setting some very fast times.
Yeah, there's a pretty good mix of pro, WCS, and just regular iRacers out here. It should make it really, really interesting. The top 3 are all black stripes, which is pretty much to be expected. And then after that, it kind of, I don't want to say it randomizes, but the group certainly gets jumbled a bit. I know a lot of the guys that run the regular Grand Prix Series are actually really, really quick. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do next to all these more experienced drivers of these longer races.
And of course, it's a long race here today, so there is a chance, you know, that drivers are going to be on alternate strategies, trying things out, and for a couple of these drivers, this could be their chance to really make an impression on the iRacing service.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of these drivers that may not have their black stripe yet, this is going to be what they want to say, trying to get on a team, trying to, you know, get the attention of some of these faster drivers. It's going to be, hey, look, I can get out here with some of these guys, and I can run good.
So the checkered flag is almost out, signifying the end of the 15-minute practice period. And after that, all the cars are going to be heading themselves to the starting grid for this race. As I say, they're going to be racing for 71 laps in this race here today. It's interesting with the weather as well. 6-mile-an-hour wind to the west. We'll talk about that as this race progresses. Track temperature, well, right now that is 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, we've got quite high humidity, as we always see in Brazil, and the cars lining themselves up on the grid right now. Run through your top 5 once again. It is Max Delorco out front, Mogar Philo in second. In third, it will be Simon Cattell. In fourth, Ariel Eduardo Bernardi. In fifth is Richie Stanaway. 22 cars made that trip over to Interlagos for the final round of the iRacing.com World Tour for 2013. Will Max Delorco be able to get himself a victory? He's had some great performances this year in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Can Mogar Philo, the hometown hero, take victory? The only Brazilian in the field here today. What about the likes of Simon Cattell, Bernardi, Stanaway? All of those drivers, we're going to find out what happened over the course of the next hour and a half here, live and exclusive on GlacierTV. Waiting for those lights to go on top of the iRacing.com gantry, waiting for those lights to go out. Lights out, and here we go. The car stormed down into turn number 1 for the first time. Max DeLorco, good start by him. A bad start for Mogarfilo. 3 wide down in turn number 1. Contact almost there, and that was with, I believe, one of the car. Philo off into the wall. That was in turn 2. Bernardi and Philo came together once and then twice. And Bernardi got himself a great start, was alongside Mogarfilo, then got himself a little bit sideways. He had contact with Mogarfilo, and it looks as though there was contact again between the two drivers, and the hometown hero out before lap number 1 is even halfway through, Randy.
Yeah, Bernardi got a fantastic start on Philo. I think Bernardi may have just been a little bit impatient going into 1. Maybe got a little jumpy. He was getting such a good start, and I think he hit loose a little bit, and it just a little bit of contact knocked Philo into the wall. It's definitely unfortunate to see the Brazilian out this early.
So, Max DeLorco has got himself a big gap already, so he's working himself down into Yonkao for the first time. Sam Cattell in the 2nd position, of course. He started this race in 3rd, he's now up a net gain of 1. Bernardi is running it in the 3rd position right now, the Club Italio driver. And then Holzman, he started in 6th, is now running in the 4th position. And then Benjamin Lindsay is up 2 spots as well as they come past the stripe. What a huge gap that is. 2 seconds between Max DeLorco and Simon Cattell at the conclusion of lap number 1. Of course, part of that, Randy, was because of the fact that the field was stacked up behind him with Bernardi slowing down and all those cars stacking it into the center rest. That's a huge lead in itself. 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, Max is a very, very fast and very consistent driver, so this is the last thing anyone in this field wanted to see was Max out to a 2-second lead this early. At this point, I think Max is going to kind of start running away at this point. Simon is going to have to work really hard to bring that gap down.
So your top 5, let's say, is DeLorco from Cattell, from Bernardi, from Holzman, from Lindsay. It looks as though everyone else was able to get through lap 1 except for Philo. Boris Bolstra is on pit road right now. I'm just trying to see. I think he might have got himself a penalty, stop-go penalty, so who is in at the conclusion of lap number 1. But they come through Yonkao onto this long front straightaway once again. It's not actually really a straightaway from the majority of it. You're always turning that car to the left. And it's a lot more difficult than you see once you actually get into that cockpit, especially on cold tyres. It can be very, very difficult to put the power down and work it flat out. DeLorco completes that 2nd lap, and actually that last time by, Simon Cattell was faster than DeLorco. So we have a race on right now. Cattell, 3/100ths of a second faster than DeLorco. That gap back underneath 2 seconds once again.
Yeah, if Cattell can keep that pace up, it'll be really, really impressive, and if he can start chasing down Max with these long straightaways, if he gets close enough, he'll be able to work that draft. And there's really not too many very fast corners here. There's a couple, so he won't really be feeling the aero push as much as he would at another racetrack. And
I'm having a look at Cattell. He does look very, very stable in that middle section of the racetrack. Bernardi has fallen back a little bit. He is 2 seconds almost behind Simon Cattell right now. And the top 5, they've spread themselves out. However, Benjamin Lindsay has lost the position by a hard-charging Jacob Nelson. Now, Nelson started this race in the 11th position. And get this, he's now been able to get himself up into, I believe, the 8th position, as it was actually Lindsay who's lost himself 3 positions in that lap. He's had enough early on in that lap there, Randy.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of nerves. I know that Jacob Nielsen is one of the quicker guys that generally runs in the full official series. Generally pretty consistent, has some pretty good racecraft. Benjamin Lindsay, it'll be interesting to see what he can do here. If he can just get in the groove, just take a deep breath and just keep the thing on the black stuff. If he can do that, he'll be looking really good for this race, I feel.
I've just had a look back at the replay. Richie Stanaway, there's a little bit of contact between himself and Lindsay, which is what lost 2 positions there. Lindsay, Stanaway was able to get past at the start of the lap, and then as they work himself down into that very fast turn 6 Bodura corner, that is when the contact was, and that is why Lindsay is further down the field right now on the racetrack. We've got a couple of guys scored 1 lap down, by the way. Justin Lindsay is just coming out of pit road as we speak in that number 8 car. Not quite sure what's happened to him, but he has definitely had an off, and he is pretty much scored in the 20th position on the racetrack. In fact, we'll get ourselves a replay of this. This was a pretty big crash between himself and Diego Mendez, Randy, and this was down on working that lap number 2, down at turn number 10, the Duckville corner. and Lindsay got the most of that. He was flipped upside down. His car's back on pit road now, and really doesn't look as though he's going to go too far in this race at all.
Yeah, that was just an unfortunate incident. Looks like Lindsay may have been a little, maybe sideways on the brakes, or maybe just being a little overconfident, got spun around, and pretty much ended any chance of him being able to be competitive today. That's really unfortunate.
And of course, Garfield, the hometown hero, the #1 car, out of the race at the not even before we got to turn foot in this race, and it's horrible for Garfield. He's not even able to do a mile in his home event, which I know he was looking forward to so much. But we've got a car off the racetrack. That's Diego Mendez again off, and that was down at the Curva de Sol. Coming out of the center S, he put the power down, and then it just looks like we have seen quite a lot of this, Randy. Putting the power down through the Curva de Sol. A lot of people have been getting loose, and he hit the Brazilian version of the World Champions, which of course became so famous back in 2003 when everyone went off in the rain there.
Yeah, Curva de Sol is, it looks really, really easy, but you get in these cars and it's actually deceivingly difficult. It's really easy to kick the car sideways. You're going just fast enough where aero starts to play a factor, but not fast enough where it helps you keep the rear end in line enough. And you really gotta just manhandle that thing through Curva de Sol.
Gonna check in on Jacob Nelson. I told you how he has been working his way back through the field. He is closing up right now on Mohammed Patel in the number 11 car. Now, last time by Nelson, a 1 minute 14.836, and he was a little bit slower than Patel that last lap, but of course, he's in that dirty air, in that draft now of Patel. You see him just weaving down to the inside as they came down into turn number 4 at the Sega de Lego, and he's trying to upset now, trying to get into the mirrors of Mohammed Patel in that battle for the 6th position. I think he wants to get past, because Stanaway is ahead of them, is running 3 or 4 tenths a lap faster, and I think Nelson's thinking, I've got the pace, I just can't find a way past right now.
Yeah, this is, there's a couple good passing opportunities here, but it's also basically in the same part of the lap, and if you get hung up, I mean, after that part of the lap, there's really just no way to get by unless you try to force something down at the last second. But yeah, definitely good racecraft from Nielsen, harassing Muhammad Demir like that. It'll probably get Muhammad thinking.
To check in on that battle for the race lead, Del Orco is beginning to stretch his legs. His gap is 2.6 seconds on the racetrack now, as they work themselves on lap number 7 in this race. It does look as though now Del Orco's got those tyres working at optimum temperature. He is starting to eke out a gap from Simon Cattell to run through your top 10. Max Del Orco leads the way, 2.6 seconds. As I say, the gap over Simon Cattell. Third place, Ariel Eduardo Bernardi is running in that 3rd position, a further 1.5 seconds back from Cattell. 4th place is Patrick Holzman in the number 22 car. He is 4 seconds back from that 9 car right now in that 4th position. Richie Stanaway a further 3 seconds back in the number 6 machine, running in 5th, and then 6th is Mohammed Patel. Jacob Nielsen still running in that 7th position, not able to find a way past Patel. Benjamin Lindsay running in 8th, Thomas Stern running in 9th, and then Marcus Hamilton round out your top 10. We still got ourselves 18 cars scored on the lead lap. We have a total of 2 retirees, Diego Mendez and Mogar Filo, and 2 cars are currently just scored 1 lap down in this race. The battle that I'm still keeping an eye out is between Patel and Nielsen. In fact, Nielsen gets a very good run out of Young Cal that last time by, but again, he's not quite close enough as they come down into the center S. He's going to look down to the inside. He's going to try and make a late pass. Thinks better of it. I'm thinking Nielsen should not set his 7th gear up to work on the draft here.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. It's definitely a gamble with gearing in this, because on the one hand, you want to be tall enough to where you can take full advantage of the draft if you get to the point where you can use it. But if you make it too tall, then when you're out of the draft, you just have no upper end power. Or you keep it short and you get more power, more torque when you're out of the draft, but then when you're in the draft, you obviously just max out way earlier than you should. So maybe Jacob not keen to be stuck behind someone as long as he was. It's a possibility, and it'll probably make things much more difficult for him trying to get by.
And let's not forget as well, the wind is blowing from the west, so that is basically giving a tailwind all the way down the front straightaway. So these guys, they've probably optimized their gears in such a way that they've got a little bit extra running by themselves. but that 6-mile-an-hour wind, that can be a huge difference maker, especially as the fuel begins to burn off of these race cars. I'm having a look at Nielsen once again. He's a little bit closer than he was the last time, and this is the point right now, as they come past the start-finish line, that he normally closes up, and he's definitely hitting the limiter. He's bouncing off the limiter at 189 miles an hour. The big issue is that Patel is doing 188, 189 miles an hour himself coming down into turn number 1.
Yeah, just not getting the advantage in the draft he needs, trying to close up. He is he's getting a good run going into turn 4, though. He caught up quite a little bit, and it looked like Patel got a little bit of a better run through turn 4 there, but we'll have to see.
Behind them, Benjamin Lindsay and Marcus Hamilton, they are battling for the position on the racetrack. Now, Lindsay had a very slow lap last time, which allowed Marcus Hamilton in that 2 car to close up, let's say, battling for P8 on the racetrack. And Hamilton in that number 2 car, looking as though he's very, very good in that middle section of the racetrack. But Lindsay does look as though he's getting some snap oversteer coming off the corners, and that is the last thing you're going to want at a racetrack like this. Hamilton a little bit slow getting onto the gas there through turn number 11 even. Now they come out of Yonkao through 12, up through 13 and 14. Nowhere near close enough, and Lindsay does it better on the front end of the racetrack, but of course, Randy, that's the only place really you can make the pass, either into turn 1 or perhaps turn 4, where it's all about that raw speed.
Yeah, Lindsay might have a bit of aero off his car compared to Hamilton. You mentioned that Lindsay looked like he was getting snap oversteer, and that's going to make the car really difficult to drive, but it's also, if Hamilton's running more aero, it'll make his car easier to drive, but it'll make it more difficult to get by.
And they continue their battle for P8 on the racetrack. You have also got Robert Nash coming into that battle as well. He's running in the 10th position. Last time by, Nash did a 1 minute 14.579, a 10th of a lap faster than Hamilton, and Lindsay was a further 10th of a lap slower than that number 20 machine of Robert Nash. So if these two continue battling for position, it's going to be a three-way battle for 8th, 9th and 10th position on the racetrack. Hamilton does get a better run that time, actually, through turn number 10 and through Mugello into 11, Young Cow into 12. He's taking a very tight entry compared to the very wide entry. This will be his chance because Lindsay runs wide in Young Cow. So he'll be automatically on the defense. Hamilton going to look down to the inside. He's got the draft. He's got all he needs to do. And he'll be clear down into turn 1. What he doesn't want to do is perhaps have Lindsay try and do the cut under into 1. Not close enough. And Robert Nash behind almost ran into the rear of Lindsay there down into turn number 1, Randy.
Yeah, Nash was originally looking to try to take advantage of Benjamin Lindsay's mistake as well. He was poking it up the inside, but Benjamin Lindsay was there. He had to lock the brakes out the car, get a little squirrely. But yeah, Benjamin's going to be he's going to be kicking himself to that. That was a really, really simple mistake. Just probably a little bit of loss of focus, but he's going to be looking to put the power down and try to reel Hamilton back in. Although Hamilton he's put quite a gap already.
Corey Davis, by the way, just been able to get himself past Cyprian Briscoe. They are battling for 14th positions on the racetrack. Pretty easy pass, actually, for Davis in that number 18 car. He started the race in the 20th position. It looks as though that just a little bit loose again through turn number 3, the curve of dissolve for Cyprian, which is why he is now running in that 15th spot on the racetrack. Let's talk about your race leader for a moment, Max Alorco, because that gap, it kind of ebbs and flows. That last time, Simon Cattell took a full 4 tenths of a second out of Max Alorco's lead. It's been anywhere between 2 and 4 seconds on the racetrack as we're working ourselves now on lap number 12. But Cattell all of a sudden is back into the groove and once again is closing up to the rear of Max Alorco in that number 3 car.
Yeah, definitely Simon is definitely, if he can hold this pace, he'll be back up to Max really, really quick, but being able to take 4 tenths every lap out of Max Alorco for a real long period is really difficult to do. So we'll see if he's able to keep it consistent.
It's all about trying to keep it consistent, and consistency is always one of the keys of this racetrack because you've got to keep that momentum all the way through the race. And just one bad lap, because you haven't really got that much in the form of runoff areas here, One bad lap and it's pretty much over for you. The gap this time is last time by actually very close time to 112.835 for Kittel, and 6/100ths of a second faster than Max Delorco that last time by. And it's that thing, you've got to start chipping away, because it's a very short lap here as well, and the WCS blue flag rules don't apply, so you've got to find your way past the lap cars when you get here, and that's going to start in about 5 to 6 laps time. Then lap traffic can be a critical factor in this race, and it might even determine when you want to come on pit road to make your pit stops.
Oh yeah, in a race like this, I mean, the tires on this car really don't fall off that much. They actually stay relatively good throughout the course of the run. So the main thing that really constitutes pit strategy is traffic and fuel. And we got a slow car going into the second to last corner into Yon Cow. Who was that?
We'll find out, and we'll get back to you on that.
The Andre Ventura.
And Ventura was running in the 18th position on the racetrack, and yeah, he's not had a good race, let's be honest, and it looks as though that he just lost the car, say in turn number 10, the Big Headed Pato, the Duckbill corner. Car got loose, and he just touched the barriers, and I think he might be okay, not too much damage for him. Having a look, and he is still circulating on the racetrack. He's now scored 1 lap down, however, in that number 7 car, and he's not going to be happy with that since he qualified for this race in the 13th position. Gap for the race lead, by the way, is now back up to over 3 seconds. It was a slow lap there for Simon Kittel. He did a 1:13.4 compared to a 1:12.9 for Max Delorco. When it comes to the fastest lap, however, Delorco's fastest lap is only a 1:12.893. Compare that to Simon Kittel's 1:12.835, which they both set on the same lap number 12 in this race. But behind him, the field is starting to spread out a little bit. One guy who's not been able to make any inroads at all is Jacob Nelson in that battle with Mohammed Patel. And Marcus Hamilton is just stalking there in the 8th position, threatening to make that a three-way battle still.
Yeah, I think Patel's kind of gotten his focus, and he's certainly started to put the gap to Nielsen, and Hamilton is definitely looking, trying to catch Nielsen as well. It'll be really fun to see if these guys can have a good three-way battle for a good majority of this race. And in terms of Max Delorco and Simon Kittel, in terms of Delorco being quicker that last lap, okay, never mind. I believe that Simon got held up by that lap car a little bit, which is what caused that half-second disadvantage to Kittel.
But of course, it's still a lot of racing to go. We are working ourselves on lap number 15 of 71 in the final Racing.com World Tour event of the year, the Racing.com Grand Prix of Brazil. It's actually the second of the batch of races. We had some races last night, which our friends over at iRacing Brazil provided coverage of the top split. And then, of course, we have these races here as well. The entire idea, bringing together the entire iRacing community for a number of events, both on road courses and ovals, highlighting the very best cars, tracks, and drivers in the iRacing service. And if you are new to iRacing, head over to iRacing.com right now, where you can get yourself half price off your first 3 months membership. And, of course, if you're a current member, don't forget, next Friday is Black Friday, so always some great offers coming your way on Black Friday as well. Max Delorco is closing up on a bit more lap traffic. That is Justin Lindsay in the number 8 car, who is running it down in the 20th position on the racetrack. In fact, he's going to go 2 laps down before too long. And let's not forget, though, Delorco is just going to breeze past, because Lindsay is very good friends actually with Delorco, and Kittel is only about 2 seconds back on the road before he'll have to make that pass as well. But it does seem to be that Richie Stanaway, I have to talk about him, he has started to lose a bit of time to Patrick Holzman and is slowly being reeled in by that train of P6, P7, P8 on the racetrack, Patel, Nelson and Hamilton. And this is in some ways a bit shocking, because Stanaway has been historically very good at this racetrack, Randy.
Yeah, he definitely has been. It could be just maybe having a bad race. It happens to everyone every now and then. But it'll be, like we've been saying, if we can get Richie Stanaway and maybe Marcus Hamilton and maybe even Robert Nash going into this battle as well. Robert Nash is sitting back there lurking behind Marcus Hamilton not too far back. We could have a pretty interesting battle on our hands by the time this race ends.
And of course, Nash has been able to get himself past Benjamin Lindsay as well. And so now he is running in the 9th position. Lindsay is now down the last kite, scored in the top 10. And we haven't talked about strategy yet in this race, but historically drivers will do a one-stop race. Fill the car up as long as possible. This track isn't really too hard on tyres. And if you can get yourself through those first couple of laps, you're pretty much fine sailing from there on. 2 stops is possible, but you need to really have a huge advantage to be able to make it work. And also, especially for the 2-stopper, you want to get yourself through traffic, and we've proven already that can be difficult in this race.
Yeah, for the 2-stopper to work, you're going to have quite a bit of pace. 1-stopper is probably going to be the preferred strategy. We'll probably see people pitting a little ways past halfway. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and it looks like actually Ariel Bernardi is starting to make up some ground on Simon Cattell as they come over the stripe right now.
Like last time by, it's a 1 minute 12.584 for Bernardi, only a 1 minute 13.4 for Simon Cattell. In fact, that last lap was actually the fastest lap of the race. He went purple there, did the number 9 car. So from nowhere, he's back within an outside shot at least. He's 4 seconds back from your race leader Del Orco, but assuming that they're all in the same strategy, Bernardi is flying right now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious if maybe Simon had a little mistake that last lap or if something else happened, but Bernardi definitely took a lot of time out of him that lap. And well, I mean, like you said, he went purple as he gets loose. Ooh, he did good. He did good to catch that right there. He
did, and he did lose himself about 6/6 of a second in the process. I am a little bit confused about Cattell's lap times, however, because they have been, I have to be honest, rather inconsistent. His last 5 laps, 1:13.4, 1:13.2, 1:12.7, a 1:12.8, and a 1:13.4. And you need to have better consistency in this sort of race at the top end. I just think Cattell's got some big issues on that race car. Perhaps the braking for turn number 1, he's not just being able to sort it out. Again, a 1:13.1, and I'm having a look into turn 1, he's actually not that bad. But let's not forget, there are high winds here, and on an aero car like that, it can push the car around the racetrack in ways that you don't want it to get a little bit offline.
Oh yeah, the aerodynamics on these things are obviously immense, and just a little bit of unfortunate wind shift, something like that, can definitely upset the car in some of these faster corners. But it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, Simon's laps have been pretty erratic, so he's definitely got to buckle down and just start knocking out consistent laps if he's going to have any hope of trying to catch Max, because I mean, Max is one of the most consistent guys out there.
And let's not forget as well, when you're in this situation like Bernardi, you've just got to try and find the mistake or force a mistake. And sitting behind someone a second behind, it can be very easy to get distracted when you're seeing that car constantly in your mirrors, as Simon Cattell has been seeing for a couple of laps now with that number 9 car. So it's that extra pressure that when you've got that car behind you of making a mistake, as Bernardi does a 1:12.8 that last time by, compared to Cattell's 1 minute 12.8. And in fact, Cattell was technically a very big wiggle there for Bernardi through the curve of the soul. And that corner really has been playing havoc to these drivers. And I've been having a think about it while you're talking, and I think it really is all because of the fact that you really hit that headwind right through the center of the corner. Of course, that means naturally that air comes over the car, completely changes the balance of it, and this is a corner you're doing it over 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, the headwind definitely could be playing a havoc there, especially if you're behind another car like Bernardi is right now. You go from having a big hole in the air from being behind the car, and the wind just kind of fills that hole up, and the car that you were expecting maybe to push a little bit and be tight, now maybe more oversteery. But it's definitely, even without the adverse wind effect, it's definitely a very difficult corner to keep the thing underneath you. As Bernardi looks like he's got a good run this time. He's as close as he's been.
This is by far as close as he's been. We have to, of course, keep an eye out on how fast he's going. He's going 192 miles an hour. He is going to try and look down to the inside. Of course, he made that first lap pass. Down to the inside he goes, not quite close enough. Cattell able to hold it on the outside, but Bernardi's going to get another stab of the cherry. As Simon Cattell gets a little bit loose. Bernardi to the outside. It looks like he will be able to complete that pass almost down into turn number 4. Indeed, he does complete that pass and move Bernardi up into the second position on the racetrack. Simon Cattell back down into third. And I think that all started with Cattell working himself through Young Cow. Yes, he was able to hold the outside into the center S, but then he had a tighter apex into the second part of the S as Bernardi goes sideways and Cattell going to look to the outside of him through turn number 8 and 9. And we've got a great battle on our hands now for P2 in this race. And let's not forget Bernardi, he's had to change those in-car tools a little bit as well. Running in dirty air to running it in clean air, as he's essentially doing right now. A big difference in the way that car is going to handle.
Oh yeah, the car, when you're in clean air, the car is going to be much more oversteery, much more air going on the front end. There is less end of the rear end, which is not too much, but it's enough to where the car is going to... Oh, as Bernardi almost hit that pit wall.
He did. And we see a lot of guys, they will run all the way down. Of course, the shortest way around the racetrack quite often is the fastest way. And he was all the way down on that wall there. But Bernardi, he's now up into second position. We've got an incident at turn number 1, by the way. This was Cyprian Bruscaro, who looks like he lost it down into the center S. And we'll try and get ourselves a replay of that in a moment. But cars were sweeping around him. Max Alorco almost actually collected him. And this is say down into turn number 1. We'll get the replay up on your screen. It was lap 22 for Max Alorco. And it was Thomas Stern, actually, who got hit there by... And it's a bit of a messy incident, I have to say. Cyprian was down on the middle of the racetrack. Oh, Thomas Stern lost it all by himself there.
Yeah, I think he just locked up the rear tires and it just... I mean, it literally jumped 90 degrees to the left on him, pretty much. So he's going to be... He's going to be kicking himself for that, and Max Delorco is going to be feeling really fortunate that he's able to get around those guys before that happened.
Yeah, and I say it wasn't far, because that incident happened just behind your race leader. If Delorco was just half a second backward, he would have perhaps have been that incident. A lucky mistake there for your number 3 car of Max Delorco, who still leads the way in this race. Bernardi, though, is now 7 seconds back, and it does look as though now, Bernardi's had a couple of difficult laps coming to terms of being in that clean air.
Yeah, I think the Simon's been pressuring him a little bit, and then plus, just like you said, being in the clean air, now he's got to get reused to the car a little bit again. Everything is going to be just a little bit different. His braking points, his turn-in points, so it'll probably take him a couple laps to get back into the groove and see if he can start chasing down Max.
But, you never know, he might be able to sort himself out. And this is it, we're not even at the halfway point of this race yet. If you're looking at a 2-stop strategy, the window is open for that now. You'd likely pit around now, then you pit roughly around lap 45 to 50. If you're on a 1-stop strategy, that window will open anywhere from about lap 30 onwards. But historically, we've seen guys going all the way to about lap 48, lap 50 in this race before they make their first pit stop. So, pit window clearly is open, but there is no car on pit road for a scheduled stop at the moment, as Max Delorco is being held up pretty dramatically by Hoovenen in that number 17 car, and that's going to cost him a bit of time. And this comes back to what I was saying earlier. This is not a WCS race, so people like Delorco, who is used to cars having to come all the way out of the way, and something actually has happened to Delorco. Delorco is out of this race potentially. It's what we like to call the classic failure of technology. From the race lead, Delorco is out.
Oh no, that is horrible. That is, I mean, to have a blow up like that, 7-second lead is just. I mean, Max is going to be really upset. Oh yeah, heartbroken, absolutely. And he actually blinked out earlier, and when I was talking about it, I kind of stuttered. This is the second time he's had this issue. I don't know, maybe it's where he is compared to the server, but. He's going to be heartbroken.
And let's not forget, Max Delorco is one of the most popular drivers in the WCS. Along with people like Pablo Lopez, he's always loved. He's got a huge following over in Italy. But it looks as though his race is going to be done. You see he's dropping down the timing and scoring screens right now. Heartbreaking for Locker. He's had some pretty bad luck as well in the World Championship Series, Randy, who's looking for a great finish here after Mo Garfilo, who started second on the grid, just 2/10 of a second behind him in qualifying, was eliminated in the first corner. You have to think that he's probably thinking, Max, that was his day today.
Oh yeah, he, like you said, he had some pretty bad luck, so he's probably just like, man, this is the icing on the terrible luck cake, if there's any nice way to put it. But I'm sure he's kicking himself, and I'm sure he's really, really bummed out, because he definitely, I mean, I think he had that in the bag. 7-second lead, 20 laps in, he was blitzing the field.
But what we do have now is an epic battle for the race lead. Ariel Eduardo Bernardi in the number 9 car, Simon Kittel in the number 4 car, and let's not forget the 9 car was able to catch up to Kittel earlier on in this race, and he was able to finally get past, actually at the spot where the cars are right about now, down in turn 1 where he made the first pass, wasn't able to make it stick, but then on that run down into the Desega de Lego, turn number 4 and 5 was where he was able to get himself to what was then P2, which is now translated into the race lead. For Kittel, however, he's not, you know, Bernardi's not been able to drop him. Kittel is still there within 1 second. This will go, I think, to at least the first pit stop. Of course, traffic is coming more and more into play. We only have 12 cars on the lead lap. That will be 7 before, well, it's actually now 11 cars on the lead lap, because Bolstra has just gone down a lap as far as I'm aware, and this lap traffic could be the difference maker in this race, and also pit stop could be a huge factor now.
Oh yeah, the pit stop's going to be huge, especially in these cars. You not only have the pit time, but you have how much fuel the driver takes. And in a car like this, I mean, even the littlest bit of fuel difference, if you're a little bit heavier, you can lose half a tenth or more per lap. Bernardi gets a little squirrely there out of Yon Cow coming onto the front straightaway. It doesn't look like it hurt him too much, but Kittel's definitely going to probably catch up by a tenth or more at least.
Yeah, Kittel is definitely able to gain a little bit there. It's 1:12.5 there for Kittel that last time, right at 1:12.780 for Bernardi in the number 9 car. And we're working ourselves on lap 27 in this race now, so we're approaching half race distance, and you can see how much, you know, that fuel burning off is a difference maker. On light fuel, on a hot qualifying lap, 1:11 these guys are doing, mid to high 1:11. At the start of this race, they're doing 1:13, mid to high 1:13. These guys right now are a second quicker than they were 20 laps earlier in this race, and that really shows how every little bit of weight in Formula 1 is a huge factor in being able to go fast.
Yeah, definitely the fuel burning off definitely really helps the car, and also the way these tires are, they're not on the modern day Pirellis that go off after about 3 slow laps. These tires last pretty much the entire race.
Yeah, it does remind me of the old Bridgestone compounds that they're running Formula 1 on these tires. You can push them, you can abuse them. There is some drop off, but it's not as bad as what you're used to with the Pirellis right now in F1, which I always had to say does kind of bore me, because it's no longer about who's the best, fastest driver, it's who can manage tires by poking their finger in the air quicker than anyone else. But your top 10, as it stands right now, it is Bernardi leading the way, less than 1 second between himself and Simon Kittel. Richie Stanaway in third, but get this, almost half a minute behind your race leader. Mohamed Patel in fourth, Jacob Nelson in fifth, Benjamin Lindsay in sixth. In the 7th position is Patrick Holzman. In 8th is Robert Nash. 9th is Boris Bolstra. And then 10th is Marcus Hamilton. And then we've got ourselves right now 7 guys scored 1 lap down. Your official retirees, Mo Garfilo, Diego Mendes, Max Delorco are all out the race. Justin Lindsay is scored 2 laps down, as is Alexandre Houvenin in the number 17 car. So not much retirees, but guys, there's a big spread up and down the field on lap times, and on the short track it really is more profound on how many guys you have on that lead lap.
Oh yeah, definitely. The shorter the lap, the more quickly they're going to be going laps down. So, and we got Bernardi in the pits. Bernardi might be on a 2-stopper.
This is interesting. So your race leader onto pit road for the first time. We're not at halfway stint yet. So if he's on one of those strategies where he's going to fill that car now, then this is going to be a very interesting race into his pit box. And he's nicely in. Pit road speed, it's a very, very slow pit road here. It's one of the slowest that we go to, 45 miles an hour. And he is out and away. Very difficult pit exit. You've got to flip that car to the left and then to the right, then the left again. You're running on the inside of the center S and the curve of the Sol. However, Bernardi's going to come out in a little bit of traffic, actually. And that's going to be Corey Davis, who scored all the way down in the 14th position and the 18 car. And that is not what Bernardi wanted to have happen. And he's going to have to try and find a way past. In fact, he will get past on that run up into Ferradura. And that's very lucky for him. The important thing is, though, that you're going to go a second lap slower with full fuel compared to high fuel. If Kittel doesn't come in the next 5 laps or so, Kittel's pretty much got this race in the bag.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Kittel's in.
Kittel's in? Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. If he fills up, they're pretty much even. If he doesn't, or if he can take less fuel, Kittel's going to be in a pretty advantageous position.
So Kittel in 1 lap later than Bernardi. This is the battle for the race lead. You also have Boris and Spolstra, who is in pit road as well. But we're keeping an eye out on Kittel. This is the important one. We'll see where Bernardi is. Bernardi coming down into turn number 1. Simon Kittel is running on the inside. It looks like Kittel is going to get the job done. It's going to be mighty close. But Kittel leapfrogs Bernardi and comes back out ahead. And the gap is about a second, give or take, on the racetrack. That 1 extra lap was the difference maker there. However, Bernardi has got a lap better on his tyres. So those tyres have heated up a little bit more for him. So he might be able to reel in Kittel a little bit on this lap.
Yeah, definitely. If that's what he's going to be looking to do. The tires are definitely better when they're new, but they are a little bit squirrely and unstable when they're new. So Bernardi is going to be looking to he's just got to keep the thing under control for these next couple laps, and he can probably reel Simon back in by a few tenths. Now it'll be interesting to see is what the other guys are doing, because if these guys are two-stopping, if people like Richie or Muhammad, even though they're quite a ways back right now, if they're only one-stopping, that gap it'll be cut down quite a ways just by default, just by lack of pit stops from them.
Well, yeah, it's a two-stop process, it's a two-stage process there. And just having a look, and Kittel, it's confirmed the gap is 7/10 of a second on the racetrack. Richie Stanaway, the fastest start-finish line, and he is now 8.6 seconds back. So, if they all have to stop once again, you almost reset the field from here on in. However, then, Richie Stanaway, at this stage of the race, is going to be going a little bit faster because of the fact that he'll need to take less fuel later on in the race, and also, he's got less fuel in his car right now than the likes of Kittel, Bernardi, etc. So, on this stage of the race, you might see the 6 car of Stanaway, Patel, and that 11 car, perhaps Nielsen as well. In fact, I won't say Nielsen, because Nielsen is actually just out of pit road. So, it'd be interesting to see how these split strategies will work as Nielsen feeds back onto the racetrack. And he will be roughly, he's going to come back up behind Thomas Stern, but he's a lap car. He's going to be just ahead of Robert Nash in that number 20 car.
Yeah, Nielsen didn't lose too many spots with that pit stop, so it'll be interesting to see. It's interesting to note that Simon's stop was a little bit shorter by about 0.3 of a second.
Oh, Bernardi just got back past. Bernardi's just got back past. And I think this was another incident at Young Cow for Simon Kittel. We'll get ourselves a replay of that in a moment. And Simon Kittel, down into Young Cow, he almost loses the car, gets very sideways, and then Bernardi was like, thank you very much, I'll go around the outside of you on that run down towards the start-finish line. I'm not going to pronounce the name of turn 15, unfortunately, but Bernardi is back to the point in this race.
Yeah, definitely. Kittel's going to be kicking himself for sure, because he is making a lot of really, really small mistakes like that, and that have, translated into pretty big position losses and time losses. So I think maybe he's getting a little bit stressed out, maybe a little bit psyched out in his race car right now, making it really hard to be consistent. But But he's definitely going to be wanting to look get past Bernardi after giving it up that easy.
Yeah, and I have to say, I haven't really seen Simon Cattell take Young Cow the same way I've seen Bernardi. And again, Bernardi ekes out a couple attempts in that corner. And if there's a corner on this racetrack that you've got to be strong, and that arguably is it, because it sets yourself up the next half a lap all the way down into the center S, and also the momentum you then carry all the way back down to the infield once you get them through turn number 4 and 5. The gap is now a half a second the other way. Bernardi leading Simon Cattell. Richie Stanaway, as I said by the way, has caught these guys. The gap is now down to 6.1 seconds on the racetrack. Yes, Bernardi did a slower lap that last time by. Yes, Cattell was a little bit slower, but Stanaway at this stage is quicker than these guys, and I am wondering whether or not, and I'm going to have to wait another lap to really see, whether or not these guys have put the maximum amount of fuel in they can and are trying to go to the end of this race making just no pit stops at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if they were planning a one stop, I think stopping early generally wouldn't have been advantageous. I know from what I've run in the official series, generally the strategy is you get about 5 laps or so after halfway. That way you come out with a shorter stop and you have less fuel, which makes the car a little bit quicker. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, as Bernardi looks like he's getting held up by this lap down car of Boris Bolster just a little bit.
He is going to be able to get past him as Lars Conrad is on pit road, and Sam Cattell is going to have to go around the outside of Bolster down into turn number 1 as well. And Bolster, it did look as though he's going to try and do the cut under there into the curve of the soul. So we had a couple of cars on pit road recently. We'll run through everything as it settles down in a moment's time. But what that did do is it gave Bernardi a little bit of a gap there, as Cattell had to work around the outside of the center S. That is the largest gap Bernardi's had all race long, and it's about 1 second on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, he just needs to hold that, and he'll be looking pretty good, I think. Cattell is definitely quick, but I'm definitely questioning his consistency right now to be able to get up there and really take it to Bernardi, because they've been running similar lap times, but Bernardi's car has just seemed glued to the ground compared to Cattell, who it looks like Mac Backham is driving it.
Well, the fastest laps for these guys, Cattell does have the fastest lap by, get this, 4/1000ths of a second. However, the important thing is that these guys have just got to keep it steady. And the thing is, Cattell now, he's lost that draft, he's not getting the advantage that he had. And that was a byproduct of the fact that he was 0.9 coming down into the infield that last time by. I said he struggled into Young Cow. He lost himself another 10th of a second there. He now has to push for this half a lap just to get back within draft range. Otherwise, Bernardi might start driving away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now that he is out of the draft, he is going to have a little bit less effect of the aero understeer, definitely. But I think Bernardi is going to start driving away at this point. I think he's in the groove, he's in a rhythm. He's just putting down clean lap after clean lap. We haven't seen him have too many issues. I mean, the only thing we've really seen Bernardi do that you could call a mistake is maybe his slightly slower pit stop time. And beyond that, Bernardi's been really clean all race long.
So working ourselves on lap 35 now of 71. We are no, we're not past. We are at half race distance now. To give you an update on Max Lorco, by the way, he stated on our YouTube page that blackout at home for 2 minutes all day. He's had no problem, and it happened while he's racing. And then he claimed, "Where is your god now?" Definitely unlucky there for Max Lorco, I have to say. Many people are saying that he was probably the odds-on favourite going into this race, based upon that qualifying time. And he did have 0.2 of a second over Mo Garfido, and at least 0.2 from the rest of the field. Oh yeah, Max was blitzing everyone. I mean, I don't think there's any way Bernardi and Cattell could have beat Del Orco today without some sort of instant happen. I mean, a 7-second gap that early in the race, really hard to bring back. And Max was, I really feel for him. Just to let you know, Santry Hovenen just holding up Simon Cattell a little bit. And again, it's those little things. Now you're not the lead car. The guys aren't going to give you all the room in the world, per se. And it does seem to be, when you're the car leading, you always get that little extra bit, because you don't want to be that guy who wrecks the leader. And it does look as though that Bernardi has now been able to get that. Let's talk about some of the guys a little bit further down the field. It really has spread out quite a lot as we are going to run through your field. Starting with Richard Stanaway, who runs in the 3rd position in this race. Now, he has been able to close that gap up to the likes of Bernardi and Cattell by a couple of seconds. However, he's not made a pit stop yet, and you know he's still been a little bit off pace in this race so far today.
Yeah, Stanaway, if he can. Who are you talking about? Because I got a bit of a cough fit while you were talking. Stanaway. Okay, that's what I thought. Stanaway, if he is on the one stopper, he is going to be a little slower, probably up until his pit stop than these guys. But his pit stop should be shorter, and that'll be interesting to see when if he can bring the gap back down. And I definitely think he'll be able to do it. I think he's gotten himself into the groove. And if these guys in front of him are on lighter fuel than he is, he's been running very, very similar lap times. So when we get back after this, when they eventually stop, and then when he stops, when everyone's on relatively equal fuel, I think Stanaway is going to be able to cut down on this gap.
Running the 4th position is the number 11 car of Mohammed Patel. Now, Mohammed, of course, he had that battle with Jacob Nielsen at the start of this race. Nielsen has made a pit stop. Patel hasn't yet made a pit stop. And the gap between Patel and Nielsen, to give it in relative terms, is 31 seconds right now. But it's been a pretty solid race with Patel. He's not really put a foot wrong at all in that number 11 car. And he's just been clogging consistent laps. I'm having a look, actually, over the course of his race. And really, not much deviation between his laps as that fuel burns off. It just seems to be a nice, smooth line of, you know, what his average lap time has been over the course of the run.
Yeah, Mohammed's one of the more consistent drivers I know I've ever raced with. I mean, he's really, he runs all sorts of stuff. He runs the GT cars, he runs these Formula cars, he runs, I think, pretty much everything, I think, on the roadside. So, I mean, you do that, and it becomes, I don't want to say easy to drive everything, but certainly easy for him, at least.
And then running in the 5th position is Benjamin Lindsay. Now, Lindsay's had a tough race. I mean, he lost a couple of positions early on. He had that great three-way battle going on at one point, and he came up the wrong end of that. But it does look as though he's been able to get himself back into the groove. He is, though, 16 seconds behind Patel, when that gap was only, what, 2-3 seconds at one point. And it does look as though he has consistently struggled with that on-power oversteer that I talked about a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, this is definitely a track where that on-power oversteer is really difficult to hold. Got 3 slow corners in the middle sector, and then obviously Yon Cow right here is real difficult to get the power down as well. The Senna S, it's a pretty difficult track to get right just on that fact alone.
And then the rest of your top 10 right now: Patrick Holzman in 6th, Jacob Nielsen 7th, Robert Nash in 8th.
And sorry to interrupt you, but Benjamin Lindsay is in the pit lane.
So he is going to come down. He is at 45 miles an hour. Running at your top 10, by the way, is Liam Williams. We'll keep an eye out on Benjamin Lindsay in that 10 car. He is into his pit box. And realistically, he should come out around the likes of Robert Nash in that 20 car. He is on a one-stop strategy, clearly, on lap number 39. So he's going to fill that car with as much fuel as he needs to bring it home. He is out and away. He'll run the inside of the Senna S all the way through until that rejoins the track on the exit off the curve of the Sol, and let's see where he feeds in. Robert Nash is ahead of him by about 1.5 seconds, so Lindsay kind of back where he was before pit stop started.
Yeah, definitely, and it'll be interesting to see if he can work his way forward now that he's got the fresh rubber, he's got heavier fuel, but it'll be interesting to see what everyone, compared to everyone else, especially if everyone else is doing a 2-stopper, they're all going to have to stop again. So.
It's one of those things that you've got to keep an eye out as this race continues to evolve. But the light of Stanaway's in, by the way, and Stanaway's in from the 3rd position. Now, interestingly for him, he will probably fall out around Jacob Nielsen. I'm thinking Nielsen actually is working his way up the hill, so depending on how long Stanaway's stop is, in fact, he will get out ahead. He is out again, running that inside line ahead of him. He's got a lap car, so that's no big issue. But Patrick Holzman, the main guy he's racing with, Holzman is going to have a little bit more speed. This might be close, actually, as Holzman about 4/10 of a second back. Now, if Holzman can just push Stanaway, he might be able to pull Stanaway into mistake on cold tyres. But Stanaway comes back out, and for the time being, he's ahead of Patrick Holzman. So the main guy we're looking for to make a pit stop now is Mohammed Patel in that number 11 car. Just keeping an eye out on, of course, Patel and Bernardi. They both stay out. So for Patel, he's the longest guy in the top 5 for the look of things. Let's see if he comes in this time by, Randy. No,
he definitely isn't. He might be just thinking, you know, the longer I stay out, I'm going to be slower now, but I'll have a shorter pit stop. I'll have less fuel, be able to really push it, unless he's doing something crazy and trying to no stop it, which I don't think you can do in this car. I don't think he's got enough gas in it for that. So
don't quite think you can do that. You need to take a little bit of gas. As I say, the window really is up to about 50 laps as far as my calculations are going. But he's running in a gross third place at the moment. He's 12.9 seconds behind Cattell and Bernardi. Let's not forget though, yes, your tyre is going to wear out a little bit more, but you're on lighter fuel, you're going to have to take less at the end, and he's still doing his fastest lap. That last time by was his fastest lap of 1 minute 13.1 there. So right now, he's not actually doing too badly, and he'll be able to pull a bit of a gap out compared to like Stanaway, Holzman, Nielsen, Nash and Co.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to see Mohammed move himself up a few positions compared to where he was before all the pit stop cycles. Might be able to get himself on the podium. We'll have to see.
And he stays out for another lap. By the way, Simon Cattell has to reel back in Bernardi in that battle for the race lead. It was up to about 1.7 seconds at one point. It's back down below 1 second. And we did see this last time that Cattell went through stages where his car was a little bit faster than Bernardi's, in the same way he was a little bit faster than Dell'Orco at points of this race. So we are entering that critical phase of the race now, because the next 15 laps or so is going to determine, in my eyes, who is going to win. Let's not forget, Cattell hasn't actually really passed anyone in this race. Bernardi's been able to get past Cattell twice, but these guys are going to have to make one more pit stop, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. We saw in that first stop, though, that Cattell was better in the pit.
Holzman and Stanaway going side by side down into turn number 4, and they just avoid contact there. Holzman does get past Stanaway.
Actually, I think there was contact. I think there was contact at some point. Stanaway has a bent rear wing. Unless that was, I didn't notice that damage earlier when I was following Stanaway, but his rear wing up on my screen.
Yes, I'm just having a look to see when that happened, and I haven't seen any obvious contact between those two drivers.
Lap 40 and turn... Let me get my track.
Yep, it was down at turn number 11, so you are right. He just got rear-ended there by Holzman, which also cost him a little bit of time overall, but it has bent the rear ring of Stanaway, and his car has been actually a lot looser since. He is now down into what technically is the 5th position on the racetrack. So, not the sort of thing that Stanaway really wanted to have happen to him. Still a top 5 finish, but his day's gone from kind of bad to slightly more bad now.
Yeah, I think Stanaway's not going to be really all that happy. I mean, Stanaway's already made his one stop. I think Holzman has not, and Holzman racing the way he was, and especially with the contact. I don't think Stanaway is going to be too happy of a camper.
And we are still looking for Mohammed Patel to see when he comes back to pit road. I've done the calculations, and I really do think that both Bernardi and Cattell are going to have to stop again. And comparing it to their lap times, by the way, Sam Cattell almost equaled his fastest lap of the race at last time by a 1 minute 12.478, and is catching Bernardi. I'm thinking they're clearly on a 2-stop race because of the fact that they're doing the kind of same lap times now as they were doing the 2-3 laps before their first pit stop.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of Cattell running these quick laps, like I've been saying all day, it'll be interesting to see if he can hold this pace, because he really hasn't been able to. We've seen him run a couple quick laps and then just drop off almost by a second pretty much all race long, as Thomas Strum has just dropped out of the race as well.
Yeah, so we'll see. Sturm's had a bit of an up and down race himself, let's not forget. He had some contact early on in this race, so we'll just have a look to see what happened to him. The number 13, a Vortex racing driver of Thomas Stern, who normally races in the IndyCar. Very good on both the road and oval in the IndyCar. And actually, he lost it all by himself just coming out of Ferradura. He got onto the rumble strip, and that car just snapped on him and spun him into reverse, and that was it. It was out of the race. So, 44 laps going to be full complete, and Patel's on the pit run.
Alright, so this is definitely going to be the pit stop of the race, I think, depending on A, how long it takes, B, the pace he can keep after he pits, because it's obviously going to be a one-stopper, and then obviously where he's able to come out. I think he'll be able to beat Holzman, or maybe not. Maybe not. He may not be able to beat Holzman. It's going to be really close.
Holzman working himself right now for that final left-hand king. Patel still in his pit box. Patel out and away. Holzman comes past the start-finish line. It's going to be close, but in fact, no. Patel has clearly got this, as Holzman's now down into the center S. Patel is clearly ahead. He's going to actually have about a 2-3 second advantage there over Holzman. So what a great leapfrog there for Patel, who gives himself a net podium out of that.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of later. I mean, you take less fuel, which means your pit stop is shorter, and obviously while your opponents were out there running heavy the entire time, you were running light. So, and now he's lighter now than Holzman is, or maybe not lighter, probably about the same weight, because they obviously have to go the same distance. But I mean, that's just what pitting just a little bit later gets you sometimes. As Holzman almost loses it, just able to keep it underneath him. That was a good save.
Bernardi just having to get himself through some lap traffic. Liam Williams, who was battling actually with Marcus Hamilton for the 9th position, almost were obliged to get out of the way here. Cattell is all over the rear of Bernardi once again. Marcus Hamilton is in that 9th position and is only about 7/10 of a second ahead of Bernardi. Now this is going to be interesting because Hamilton is going to want to kind of keep that advantage he's just gained over Liam Williams, but at the same time, he's not going to want to have the two leaders trying to go free wide of him down into the center S, as potentially could be the case. And Cattell gets himself a good run this time out of the center S, and Bernardi is going to run down to the outside. He's going to have to go to the outside there. Cattell's nowhere near close enough, but Hamilton just getting out of the gas. And this is going to be interesting because Cattell does just about get past there. I was thinking that as far back as Cattell was, maybe he's going to have to wait until after the center S. Cattell, really, that has been his problem corner, young Cal, all race long.
Yeah, we've seen him make all sorts of mistakes there, and we've seen him really not. I don't think any of it. I don't think he's ever tried to make a move into one. I just don't think he's getting out of young Cal good enough in order to do it. I mean, he's obviously got good pace, but I don't think his car's either the way his car's set up or the way he's driving. I don't think it really likes young Cal very much. So, working ourselves now on lap number 47 in this race. Last time by Bernardi was a 1 minute 13.4 compared to Sam Cattell's 1 minute 13.0. Cattell all over the rear. But I think also it's the mentality of Sam Cattell right now. He's not setting up a pass, and he's losing out because, oh, actually, no, now he's got a chance because Bernardi did exactly what Cattell did earlier on. Cattell's going to be all over the rear of Eduardo Bernardi as they come down into turn number 1. They're going to be side by side. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Will it be Cattell on the outside? Will it be Bernardi? They're going to be, because Bernardi gets a very good run into 1. A little bit of a wiggle through 2. And Cattell gets himself a good run, but I don't think he's going to be close enough there. And Bernardi dodged the bullet. I think he is. I think he's going to be close enough. No, he's not. I lied. I'm just an optimistic thinker is what I am. But, no, but yeah, that was great for Bernardi to be able to hold that. He had the better line is definitely on the left going into that, even though you're on the outside of 2. Because if you're on the outside going into 1, you have to take such a narrow line through 2 and into 3 that it makes it really, really hard to get a good run. And then even if you do keep the outside, you just get past going into 4. So definitely good job by Bernardi to hold on to that.
And another mistake at young Cal. And I was just thinking about this actually, and I was talking about the curve of the soul earlier, and how that's been getting some drivers loose on the centre of the corner. Now, I was actually thinking, if you draw a straight line, it's exactly the same in inverse coming through young Cal, where the car's naturally getting tight because of the way that air is flowing over the car and the wind. Let's not forget, 6 miles an hour to the west. So that could be explaining why a lot of drivers have been having issues at that corner today.
Yeah, definitely got the win, and even without the win, Yonkao is a very, very difficult corner. It's very slick. If you get out there on that outside curb, it's really easy to kick the car loose. And the inside curb is actually rather vicious as well, so if you tap that and then that upsets the car too, it's definitely a really, really difficult corner to get right.
And just keeping an eye out, that gap back down settled at about 6/10 of a second on the racetrack. By the way, Patel and Holzman, that is carrying on. And Holzman all over the rear on Mohammed Patel right now in the battle for third position on the racetrack. And Holzman last time by 113.6 compared to a 114.3 for Mohammed Patel. And Holzman onto pit road. That story has ended as quickly as it started.
Yeah, that's a bit of a commentator's curse on the racing battle there. Saying, oh, this is going to be awesome, and then he pits in. It's okay, well, it happened.
But this 1 versus 2 stop strategy, I know there's a couple of people who've been talking about it on Twitter. Don't forget, by the way, if you want to contact us on Twitter, use the hashtag iRacingWT to do so. I'll keep an eye out on Twitter, read out a couple of tweets after the second round of pit stops is complete. But this 1 versus 2 stop strategy has been fascinating because the top 2 guys have been able to make it work for them. Patel's managed to make a 1 stop strategy work for him, getting himself into third. What we don't know, however, is what the strategy would have been for Max DeLorco.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to wonder. I think with how much faster Max was, in qualifying, might have been thinking just go for the one stopper. I mean, he was quickest in the field by a couple tenths, 2, 3 tenths. So it definitely might have been advantageous, as Holzman just had someone spin in front of him.
He did, and we'll get you confirmation of who that is in just 1 second. It was a lap car. In fact, that was, I think it was Benjamin Lindsay. Just 1 second.
No, it's Cyprian Brascaro.
Yeah, he's had a couple of off tracks here today. That car just isn't working for him in that number 16 machine.
Yeah, going through Ferradura, he just caught the inside curb, and it upset it and just kicked the rear end out. He managed to get away with it. No, not too much harm, not too much foul. So,
no, yeah.
Pretty lucky considering.
Give a shout out to Chad Dalton, by the way, to Brent Pessel, to our friends over at Iris in Brazil, the Iron Race team, all keeping in contact on Twitter using the hashtag iRacingWT. But we'll run through your top 5 very quickly. Ariel Eduardo Bernardi is still leading the way. The gap between himself and Simon Cattell is about 0.4 of a second on the racetrack. Mohammed Patel running in third, which is Stanaway in fourth. Jacob Nielsen rounds out your top 5. On lap 50, these guys in the top 2, they pitted for their first pit stop. I'm just having a look back around lap 28. So if they're going to pit again, then it will be in the next 5 to 6 laps, I think.
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right to me. You definitely want to get yourself out if you are stopping to have as little wait as possible for this last run. So I'm definitely thinking that's probably in there what they're looking to do.
But Patel, I mean, who's what, half a second quicker on his pit stop that last time by, that translates to about 2, maybe 3 laps on fuel. And let's not forget, that is just our rough timing swing. We don't know whether it's just the fact that Bernardi was a little bit slower getting out of the box. But another incident there for Patel down at Yonkao, losing himself a little bit of time. And I was also thinking as well, as these 2 leaders are coming up to put a lap on Benjamin Lindsay, who's running in that 7th position. The further you go off in the field, as Lindsay's actually going to completely disprove what I say and just move completely out of the way, if you want to race, and again, blue flag rules do not exist in this event, then it's going to be more and more difficult for the leaders to carve their way through. That could be a factor. If there's a slow car that you're coming up to put a lap on, who's not going to give you that position, you might want to come onto pit road maybe a lap early to leapfrog them.
Yeah, these leaders are actually pretty fortunate, I think, that everyone else is relatively spread out. So a lot of them are like, well, you know, they're not really battling with anyone, so there's no real harm. They don't really lose anything if they just lift out of the get out of the way, lift out of it on the straightaway. So there's definitely mature sportsman-like conduct from all the slower guys today. So shout outs for that. Huge respect for the competition.
Indeed. Give you an update if you're just joining us, as Cattell is on the road. As I say, he came in second last time. He is in first this time. So this is a big moment in the race as Cattell's on pit road. You also have Robert Nash on pit road and Lars Conrad, but the guy that we're keeping an eye out, and that was very, very close twice there for Simon Cattell. Almost had an incident on pit road there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely the last place you want to have an incident. Is on the pit lane. That's generally where you're supposed to feel safe and feel, oh, okay, I can get in and get my fuel and tires and get out.
And also, let's not forget, you don't just have that. It might also upset your balance and try and figure out where your pit box is. Cattell is out and away on the racetrack, so we've now got to keep our eye out on Ariel Eduardo Bernardi. This is the battle for the race lead. Timo Evening was just asking on Twitter who's going to win the battle between Club Italia and Club UK and Ireland. I tell you what, it is close to call, and I think it's all going to come down to Bernardi and how he hit that cone coming down to 40 miles an hour, and also when he's going to come in, because last time by they won 12.568 there for Bernardi. If he does another lap, then this could be the difference maker. He is onto pit road, so 1 lap later this time by a net difference of 2 laps between these drivers. Bernardi onto pit road. Simon Cattell right now is working his way through Young Cow, the corner which has caused him trouble all race long, onto the front straightaway as he comes through turn number 15. Bernardi is into his pit box. He's getting himself 4 fresh tyres. He's going to top up with a little bit of fuel. He is going to be out and away. Cattell past the start-finish line. It's going to be very close, but it does look as though Bernardi has got the jump. It's going to be a jump of about 1 second on the racetrack. Cattell is going to just be within draft range, but they come in, come out pretty much identical. In fact, Bernardi gained a couple of tenths there.
Yeah, he definitely did pretty much equal on the pit stops. I think Bernardi was able to get in a bit more aggressively than Cattell was. I think Bernardi's pit entry is what really gave him that time. He was, I mean, I watched both of them enter the pits, and Bernardi was right on the edge of getting a penalty or not.
So that has settled itself down. Of course, Cattell might be able to push on this last stint. There's a little bit of lap traffic still coming to be in play as well. There's Andre Ventura in the number 7 car. He's going to go down another lap. He's not really had the day he's wanted at all here. But Bernardi's going to go around the outside. Cattell is probably going to go around the outside as well. Indeed, he does. So things have settled down. Bernardi leads the way by about 8 tenths of a second as they come past the stripe to put lap 54 in the books from Simon Cattell in that number 4 car. If Cattell's got anything, he's going to have to put all his mistakes behind him now and really just push. We've seen one mistake from Bernardi, which almost cost him the race lead. For Cattell, we've seen a number of minor mistakes, and let's not forget, that has cost him the lead in this race, and things could have been different if Cattell remained out front.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Cattell let the pressure get to him a little bit, and that's what was causing those issues. And now really, I mean, he's going to be under the most pressure he's been on the race to be able to catch and then get around Bernardi. So.
And of course, catching is one thing, passing is another. We will find out over the next 17 laps we have left in this race. We have to say, talking about the World Tour as well this year, there has been a huge variety of events in the World Tour. Starting off, of course, with the Raw before the 2.4 hours at Daytona. You had then, the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, the Pocono 400. We had a number of events, not too much on the roadside, but iRacing, as always, listening to the fans, listening to the members, and we've got ourselves for 2014, the Road Warrior Series and the World Tour running together. Great big events coming your way in 2014 on iRacing, Randy.
Oh yeah, those Road Warrior events are going to be fantastic. I know for a fact I'll be running in all of them unless Vincent decides he needs a last resort commentator or something. But
my life is repeated.
I am your last resort. So,
yeah.
But yeah, the Road Warrior Series is going to be fantastic. Great mix of pretty much everything. You got V8 Supercar stuff in there, Formula 1 stuff in there. You got SCCA stuff in there. I mean, it's going to be fantastic.
And of course, on the World Tour, the details not yet announced for 2014, but we know the big hitters will be back. The Daytona 500, the Indianapolis 500, the Pocono 400. Rumours we might get ourselves a triple crown on the IndyCar side of things, of course. Also Club Speedway, is announced as being a track in development, so we might get that within the next year as well. Great idea to have a triple crown on the IndyCar. I know the fans love that idea, but you've got the big races as well, the Talladega 500 we've had, the Daytona 500 on the oval side. A couple of guys, of course, are wanting there to be a couple of other oval races. We've heard words of sprint cars, of short track. So we'll give you the update from GlacierTV as soon as they come through, of course. But as far as battles on the racetrack goes, Jacob Nielsen is slowly but surely catching Mohammed Patel. And we're going to go back to about the lap 10 on this race when Nielsen couldn't get past Patel at all. Actually, I hate the fact Nielsen's had some form of incident because he's very slow right now. And he's lost a lot of ground. In fact, he's fallen behind Benjamin Lindsay and Richie Stanaway. So something has happened to Jacob Nielsen, I believe, in that number 4 car. I think he actually just came on pit road. Yeah, indeed, so he's made his second pit stop, and he's lost out quite dramatically there, down into, what, 5th position in this race. 6th.
Yeah, that's definitely going to take him out of contention for podium. He's too far away from Muhammad, I think, at this point. Especially after having that second fight. Yeah, he's down into 6th on Lindsay, so.
So, quick track facts. Fastest pit stop of this race today, 6.4 seconds. And that was actually just set by Jacob Nielsen. Naturally, if you're going to pit later on in the race, you're going to need to take less fuel to get yourself to the end. But that 1 versus 2 pit stop thing, Patel really won that one. As Patel was all over the rear there.
Yeah, it's now less than a tenth to Bernardi.
He's going to have to be defensive driving for Bernardi, and Cattell's going to go to the outside, side by side, in the battle for the race lead. Can Cattell go around the outside? The answer is going to be almost, big wiggle there for Cattell, and that was his best chance, and the two almost came together, but Cattell got a little bit sideways, fell back into line, but he almost made that work on the outside.
Yeah. That was definitely a pretty brave move, but from Cattell, those are the kind of incidents we've been talking about. I mean, that might have been his only chance he gets here from here on out to get by, and I mean, he kind of just, the way he threw it in on the outside, got a little bit sideways. Those are the kind of incidents we're talking about that are kind of robbing him of the lead, really.
Indeed, so this race is far from over as we're going to complete lap D8 of 71 at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, the final event of the 2013 iRacing World Tour. This is the iRacing Brazilian Grand Prix on Glacier TV. Worthington and Randy Shenworth calling the last 15 laps of this race, as Cattell is actually doing a lot better job now in turn 1, 2 and 3, and he does catch up quite a bit to Bernardi. So if he's in that situation again, I do think it's better for him to make that pass into turn 4 compared to trying to make that dive bomb into turn 1.
Yes, definitely. Turn 4 is definitely, like I said it at the top of the show, a little bit easier place to get by, because if you have the inside for 4, you have the inside for 5, whereas if you do it into 1, you're on the outside for 2. So it's definitely a bit of give and take on where you can get it done. Obviously, he's not been very good through Yonkau all race long, so he's going to be looking to get it done in 4. So,
still a lot to play for, and it's all kind of fallen down a little bit towards the rear of the field, but Patrick Holtzman and Jacob Nelson, they are still battling for P6 and 7 on the racetrack, Randy, and Holtzman has had some good speed in this race, last time by 2 tenths of a second faster than Nielsen. He's got enough time to close up. Again, he's only got 12 laps to find a way to make a pass, but Holtzman's made some good passes in this race.
Yeah, he managed to get by Stanaway earlier, and he was taking it to Stanaway, and I think Patrick's going to be able to catch Nielsen. I don't know if he'll be able to get by, because as he said, passing's really hard to do, especially on a track like this.
And we'll keep an eye out on that battle. So most of the other battles have calmed down. However, Nielsen is kind of catching Benjamin Lindsay with 3 seconds though to close in about 12 laps. That is going to be tough, but Lindsay has made some mistakes in this race, and he has had some aero damage to his front wing as well. So Lindsay, towards the end of this race, has got to be careful. Any mistakes will put Jacob Nielsen and also potentially Patrick Holtzman right up there with him in the latter stages of this race. I am having a look, though, at that battle for the race lead. And Bernardi's, I think, sorted out that line into Young Cow again. Kittel did get as good a run this time. In fact, this has been one of the better runs Kittel has had. And I am interested because he does close up very well. These cars always have run very well on the draft. 190 miles an hour down into turn number 1. Bernardi a little bit wide, actually, there, down into 1. This might give Kittel a good run through. But that dirty air playing a little bit there on Kittel, wasn't able to really close up too much. But Kittel, he's good in a straight line. Those cars always are, the IDEX guys. But at the same time, we have seen some good speed from Bernardi in a draft.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen some pretty good, some really good speed out of Bernardi. And something to note about the draft is Kittel was maxed out at 190, so he might be running a little bit too shallow of a gear than he would prefer. I believe Bernardi was a bit quicker in the draft earlier when he was the one trying to get by Kittel. So it'll be interesting to see, definitely. If we get to the point where if Kittel can get by and if any lap traffic comes into play, that might be something that plays into Bernardi's hand for sure.
Something to bear in mind, and you always got to bear things in mind in this race. All it would take is just, and Kittel just has a wiggle there. That's going to cost him a little bit as they run up the hill once again. But all it takes for this race to turn itself upside down is for Bernardi to just get a little bit tight on the exit of Young Cow, or have a tiny little bit of looseness through the center S, and this race could be flipping back on its head once again.
Yeah, and speaking of a little bit of looseness, Simon Kittel got really sideways through turn 1 that lap. I mean, like we've been saying all race, Bernardi's not been having the little issues that Kittel has had. And it's just, I mean, it's really killing Kittel trying to get up there and be able to catch Bernardi. I mean, he'll reel him in, he'll get to a point where he's a tenth or two behind him, and then he'll slide, and then he'll lose 4/10. And it's just really hard for him to be able to re-catch up and then try to make a pass if he just keeps throwing away all his opportunities like that.
And of course, we are now into the last 10 laps of this race. So we are into that final drive to the line in the final World Tour event of the year. Holtzman and Nilsson, that is our closest lap in the racetrack. We're going to keep on that for just a moment or so. And Holtzman, it doesn't look as though he's got any real gear to close up to the rear of Nilsson at all. And Nilsson was having issues closing up to the rear of Patel early on this race. Holtzman's maxing out 187 miles an hour, and we know that Nilsson was able to do 189 earlier in this race. So Holtzman's in a bit of a lose-lose situation now. Can't close up. If he does manage to get past, Nilsson's clearly fast in a straight line.
Yeah, I think Holtzman might have had his top end compromised from that little tap he had with Stanaway earlier. So that could be something that's playing effect, or it could just be a gearing, a different choice of gearing, an unfortunate choice of gearing as well, especially with that tailwind that we were talking about earlier.
But Holtzman is very good for that middle portion of the race. The only issue is it's very difficult to find a way to like contact between the two. Holtzman, and that is where we had incidents early on this race. Holtzman turned Nilsson there, and that is not what we wanted to see. Nilsson is incredibly angry there, as his day is pretty much done. And that's it for Nilsson, and that is 6th place completely gone there. And we've seen this before at the same corner. Holtzman just came down into that corner a little bit hot and passed through the center of the corner and just tagged the rear and spun Nilsson around there.
Yeah, these cars are really fragile. I mean, if they were any more fragile, they'd be made out of glass. Just a little bit of tap like that could really upset it. That's actually the same corner that that Holtzman tapped Stanaway in, actually. So I don't know if maybe Holtzman is really good through there, because I mean it didn't look like he really went in too hot, but that was definitely unfortunate. And
I was just saying that Holtzman's been very good on that infield, but of course you've got to find a way past him. Naturally, the guy in front generally gets into the power, and you've got to wait. It just seems to be that Holtzman's carrying too much speed through there. And the second incident he's had at that corner, his car, by the way, does look as though it's got some damage now to the suspension, because there was a couple of taps there. And Holtzman, I mean, he might just be able to hold on to that 6th position. But Robert Nash, I'm just having a look to see where he is on the racetrack. He's only about 7-8 seconds further back in the closing stage of this race. Nash might be able to close up through it and pass Holtzman. if indeed he has got some damage. And it does look as though he's not as fast as he was earlier on in this race. We'll get the confirmation of the time as it comes past the start-finish line once again. He's only doing 167 miles an hour and a 1 minute to 22 last time by. Nash is going to be passing by the end of this lap.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Holzman's top end has just been completely compromised with that. I mean, it's just his. If you look at his front wing, he's going to have all sorts of drag. He's going to have no downforce, and after, I mean, it's what to expect after a couple poor decisions like he's had. So,
of course, Nash has now got to find a way of getting past. Let's see whether Holtzman moves to the left-hand side. No, you're waiting. He's going to do on the outside. Will Robert Nash will be able to move past and complete that pass and move Robert Nash, the 20 car, up into the 6th position. And I was going to say, actually, you have the 22nd and 20th guy in iRating terms. We're running in the top 10. You've also got Eric Den Hollander, we've not really talked about in this race, also running in the top 10. So whilst you have a couple of the high I-rated guys, people like Mo Garfield and Max Delorco at the bottom end of the field, you've got some guys with the lower I-rating higher up, and it's a positive thing to see there.
Oh, definitely, and it just shows you that although you might have the lower number, the bigger I rating, it's not really the you don't really get the full effect there, and it's one of the things why I'm really happy actually why they do these they split these races by qualifying as opposed to I rating. If they did it by I rating, there'd be a lot of decent drivers that we wouldn't be seeing probably in this race. People like Mohamed Bell, maybe some other people. Like definitely Robert Nash and Holzman probably wouldn't be in this race if I rating splits were the case.
Completely agree. By the way, Bernardi was able to pull out a 1.2 second advantage over Sam Cattell. Guess what? Cattell's been able to close that gap back. It's back down to 0.7 of a second on a racetrack. It's like a yo-yo between these two. And let's not forget the gap between these two has never been more than 1.5 seconds either way in this race. Two very closely matched drivers. And you could almost argue it could very easily have been the other way around, Cattell ahead of Bernardi. But it all comes back down to that time that Bernardi was able to get past the first time when Cattell made that mistake at Young Cow. That is basically the mistake that might have cost Cattell this win.
Oh yeah, definitely that. And then when they were going out of turn 4, when Cattell was side by side, and he got just a bit squirrely, and although he wouldn't have finished, I don't think he would have completed the pass. He lost way more time than he should have. As they're coming out of turn 3 now, we got 5 laps to go, so it's going to be a 5-lap dash to the finish. Who's your favorite to win, Cattell or Bernardi?
I don't know, we've been asked this question already. I do think Bernardi's got it, and the reason for this is, even if Cattell gets past Bernardi's fast in a straight line. Bernardi hasn't had those issues at Young Cow. He's been very solid all race long as Cattell goes very wide. You can tell he is pushing it in these closing laps. The gap, 0.4 of a second on the racetrack. I'm going to go with Bernardi. I know that there's going to be some people from Club UK and I who say that I should be cheering on the UK, but hey-ho. I'm going with the Italian here, and I think that unless Bernardi makes a monumental mistake, I think he's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, same here. I definitely think Bernardi is the favorite, but I'm going to go ahead and root on the underdog. I'm going to say Cattell's able to get it. It's going to be miraculous if he's able to, but it'll be it's definitely something I want to see, so...
Down into turn number 1 again, and Cattell was nowhere near close enough that last time. But to give you an update on Holtzman, by the way, is still struggling around. Oh no, Liam Williams! Did he just have a contact with Liam Williams? No, Williams got rear-ended by Marcus Hamilton. They were battling for 7th and 8th, and Williams was just trying to come around Holtzman, who of course is going slowly on the racetrack. Hamilton didn't realise and rear-ended Williams, and guess what? The same corner again. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, a little bit. Those 3 tight corners that you get in the middle part of the track are generally where you see the incident. It's where people tend to bunch up. The other corners are Young Cow and turn 1 and S. So, but I mean, it's definitely ironic that I think all of our issues have been in that same corner rather than spread out all around the track. Though I think with the exception of the lap 1 turn 1 incident, everything's been in that same turn.
Yep. Williams does, by the way, get himself past both Hamilton. It looks like he gave them the position back, and also Patrick Holtzman as well. So move Liam Williams now up into the 7th position on the racetrack. And it does look as though Marcus Hamilton has got some damage, and
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you on a battle we've missed out on. Richie Stanaway has got to the rear wing of Mohammed Patel.
Wow! And that has been in the last 5-6 laps or so.
Yeah, that's been huge. So we're going to have an awesome battle for first and second, and by the looks of it, a pretty awesome battle for the last podium spot as well.
Stanley's all over the ring. He's going to try and go around the outside, and this is not the sort of place to try and make a pass into Bica de Pato. But Stanley's all over the ring. He's going to know he's not going to go around the outside into Muragulo, but he thought about it there. Stanley has been haunting Patel. I'm wondering, perhaps, maybe Patel is a little bit light on fuel. Stanley's going to breeze past here Mohammed Patel. And Patel, he's only made perhaps one mistake in this race, and it could be not putting enough fuel on that car, because his last lap, a 1 minute 14.8, Stanaway on the inside. Patel is going to keep his foot to the floor, and he's faster in a straight line. He's able to stay ahead, but Stanaway almost runs over the rear of Patel, and they're going to work themselves now through the curve of the soul. Almost contact again, but they keep it going. Stanaway now on the outside, Mohammed Patel on the inside, and I tell you what, Patel actually is running a very good run here, but Stanaway around the outside, and he's going to be able to complete that pass.
That was fantastic driving by Stanaway there to be able to get by on the outside. He was able to make Patel hold a narrow entry, and that definitely compromised Patel's entry and his exit, and Stanaway was able to keep his momentum up on the outside with his damaged race cars. Now the ball in Patel's court to see what he's able to do, as Stanaway has already put out about a second gap.
Yeah, you know what, actually, I think it was. I think Patel took a little bit too little fuel, and what he was trying to do was, you see, he was fighting on the straightaways, but in the corners, he can save the gas there very easily, and it's so difficult to pass. You can see Stanaway all over the rear, and Patel was just thinking, okay, I can keep you behind on the twisty bits, but then, on the straight line, I'm going to then push it. Simon Patel is going to get in fact, it's going to be Bernardi. He's going to get himself the white flag this time by the final lap of the 2013 iRacing.com World Tour. And the gap is as big as we've seen it all race long, 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. Bernardi, a 1:11.856 that last time by, and that is the fastest lap of the race. Bernardi works himself down towards turn 4 with Sega DeLego for the final time. Looks like he's got this one finally in the back.
Bernardi's on a rail. That 1:11.855 was faster than his qualifying time. He is flying right now.
That is crazy. It would have qualified him in this race. He is down into the twisty bits for the final time. He's got Corey Davis ahead of him. He's going to move out of the way, and we would not want that to happen on the last lap of the race, but he comes down into Bica de Pato for the final time, turn number 10. Just a couple of corners left to go for him now as he comes down into Mugello, turn number 11. Into Young Cow, turn 12 for the final time. All he's got to do now is put that foot to the ground and take it home. The lap car ahead of him is Patrick Holtzman, who is going to go down a lap at the very end of this race. Bernardi comes down to the inside. Club Italia rejoice. Ariel Eduardo Bernardi takes victory in the iRacing.com Brazilian Grand Prix. Simon Cattell comes home in the 2nd position, but what a great win for Bernardi, who qualified in 4th and takes victory.
Yeah, it was definitely a good run by Bernardi there. He was able to, the people that were faster than him obviously were Max and arguably Simon, but Bernardi had something that Simon didn't, and that was the consistency. So that's all. That's obviously I think that was a big X factor there, as we see him now doing donuts in the off in the runoff for 4 and 5.
And as always in the World Tour event, you see it in the Daytona 500, you see it in the Indy 500, etc. Winning a World Tour event, winning the top split of a World Tour event, generally is one of the most satisfying wins you have on iRacing, period.
Oh, definitely, because, it's not like a official series win where you might be just beating a bunch of regulars in a car or something odd like that. You're really racing against a lot of people, a lot of top-end drivers that may not normally run against. Like people like Mohammed Patel, I know he does run the car on occasionally. I don't think he normally runs the F1 car. And I mean, it's definitely feels a little bit better when you have a good finish in a field like this.
Stanaway, by the way, comes home third in the race. Patel, I'm just having a look. Did he run out of fuel? It looks like he might have done just at the line, run out of fuel. So Patel comes home in the 4th position. Benjamin Lindsay in 5th. We'll run through your final race classification in a moment. But what a great race. I mean, I feel bad for Philo. I feel bad, horribly bad for Max Delorco. However, you know, at the end of the day, a great drive on that battle for the race lead between Bernardi and Cattell. And actually, in many ways, after Delorco retired from the race, we've had a true race in our hands.
Oh yeah, definitely. Delorco is definitely making it boring for sure, which is just a tribute to how fast he actually was. Yeah, no offense to Max, or if anything, that's just the biggest praise I give him. He was so fast, he made the race boring. But yeah, he was definitely, I think, undoubtedly the favorite to win this, and it's definitely going to be, probably still is heartbroken that he wasn't able to pull it out. I know it would have been awesome to see him win, especially with the big gap that he had. It probably would have made it look easy, to be honest.
So, your final race results then from the 2013 iRacing.com Brazilian Grand Prix. Ariel Eduardo Bernardi takes victory in a time of 1 hour 27 minutes. Simon Cattell 1.3 seconds behind him. Richie Stanaway comes home in the 3rd position. Mohammed Patel in 4th. Benjamin Lindsay rounds out your top 5. Robert Nash in 6th. 7th is Liam Williams. 8th, Eric Den Hollander. 9th is Boris Spolstra. 10th is Marcus Hamilton and Patrick Holzman in 11th. Corey Davis 12th. Cyprian Briscoe in 13th position. Andrea Ventura comes home in the 13th spot. In 14th position. Alexandre Hoovenen in 15th, Jacob Nielsen 16th, Justin Lindsay 17th, Lars Conrad 18th, Thomas Stern 19th, Max Delorco rounds out your top 20. I think I missed out Cyprian Briscoe. He came home in the 13th position. Driver of the race, Randy Go.
Oh, it's hard not to give it to Ariel Bernardi. I mean, he had the pace. I mean, him and Simon were really close on pace all race long, but Ariel was just, I mean, I think the only mistake we saw was the slight incident in turn 1, which was definitely more a victim of circumstance for Bogart rather than bad decision making. Bogart kind of got neck coated there a little bit, but yeah, I'd definitely give it to Bernardi.
And you've got to say as well for Delorco, he can take a tiny bit of satisfaction that a Club Italia teammate won the race.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure that there's a little bit of satisfaction there, but I don't think so much that he wouldn't have rather been on the top of the podium right now.
And let's not forget as well the huge rivalry between Club Italia and Club UK and Ireland in iRacing. Actually, probably one of the biggest rivalries alongside Club Diat and Club Finland.
Yeah, definitely. Although being North American, I tend not to follow all you European silly disputes with one another.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is almost all we have time for. To everyone who has taken part on the 2013 World Tour, be it racing in one of the races, or watching one of the races, or commentating on one of the races, or anything, thank you very much for being a part of the 2013 World Tour. We have got time to have a chat very quickly to Simon Cattell, who comes home in the 2nd position in the number 4 car. Simon, you tried, and you just came short. 1.3 seconds back after 71 laps of racing.
Yeah, it was a pretty difficult race, to be honest. It's so difficult to drive this track for 71 laps, but it was a good race with Ariel. I kind of enjoyed that. But I was just driving so bad at the time because there's so much noise in my house. I'm sorry for the shopping list of excuses, but it was so difficult to concentrate at the start of the race. And so I didn't really get into a rhythm so well, but nevertheless, it probably wasn't enough. Max was probably quicker than both of us anyway, so he probably deserved the win if he had a little bit of better luck in the race. But good job to Ariel anyway, he deserved it.
we'll talk about the start first. I mean, you had a pretty good start, and you went towards second place eventually. And then, of course, after Delorco retired and you took the lead, it did seem to be as though you were unable to struggle. And then you had that moment down at Yonkao, which was, in my opinion, probably the key difference maker in the race.
What happened there? Sorry, I can't remember.
That's when you kind of got a little bit loose and Ariel passed you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was having quite a lot of trouble at that last corner. I noticed that was the only place on the track where he was really pulling away from me, so I sort of really looked harder at that corner and see what I could have done better, but he did a pretty good job when it came to overall racing. I was probably a little bit too cautious. I didn't want to throw away the race too well, but at the beginning I was feeling kind of comfortable because I think that I had a few more laps of fuel than Max did, but after the first 10 laps or so it was starting to get a little bit tricky for me and I was losing some concentration, and then Ariel, was closing up at the same time, so that did put me under a bit of pressure, and eventually he got close enough and made his way through, and that was pretty much the end of that.
And then you almost got the lead back later on in the race. A bold attempt on the outside of turn 4, and we have seen a number of drivers make that pass happen at the Disega Delego turn 4 and 5. Just your car got a little bit loose. Do you think if you'd got in front you would have been able to keep that lead?
It's difficult to say, but as you said, I got loose in that corner, and at the time I wasn't even trying to make the overtake. I was trying to get the cut back and get a better run up the hill, but he braked a little bit early. I think he was expecting me to go around the outside of him, so he left me a bit of room and tried to take a better speed through the corner than I did, but it's hard to say. I think he probably would have still came out ahead of me because he was quite quick on the exit of some of the corners, so I'm not sure if I would have really got ahead of him.
And before we let you go, I want to say thank you to?
Well, just thank you to my team at X Racing, our sponsors simroom.com. Thanks to Timo Ivanen and Robin Friskops for spotting for me, which made it a little bit easier. I had someone that I could shout at during the race, and that's pretty much it. It was a good race apart from all the small mistakes that I made.
P2, well done, Simon Cattell. Final thoughts, Randy?
Oh, it was definitely fantastic. Good job, Simon. Fantastic driving. But definitely a great race all around, I thought.
So I'm going to do the exit speech again. I'll get it right this time. So thank you very much once again to everyone who has taken part on the 2013 World Tour, be it racing in any of the races, be it watching any of the races here on Glacier TV, or with our friends over at PSR TV as well, or simply by getting involved. And don't forget, if you're a new member, head over to iRacing.com right now, get yourself half price off your first 3 months membership. If you're a current member, don't forget it's Black Friday in, less than 7 days' time. So you never know, there might be a nice little discount for you coming up there as well. That is it for the World Tour for 2013. For more information on the 2014 World Tour and the Road Warrior Series, head over to iRacing.com. For more information about Glacier TV, head over to GlacierTV.com. You can find us on YouTube as well, just by searching Glacier TV. The Will and Dave Show every Friday, 4 PM Eastern. That is rolling all the way through the winter. If you want a little bit of comedic action, in the meanwhile, from myself, Will Vincent, from Randy Shenworth, and from Yana Metakayan on cameras, we'll see you all next time. It's been a great season. Bye-bye.